our council members and our police chief and everybody involved with the community, with the council, for taking time out of their busy schedules to help lead our city. Please watch over us and guide us in making the right decisions for the community as a whole tonight. Watch over all of our armed forces as they protect our interests. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just roll that. So move the mouse all the way over. Oops, sorry. That's how. Then you can scroll to move it up and down. You can use the wheel if you're over there. All right. Just give me a hard
City Council meeting is now in order.
So you want to start the
roll call.
Mr. Mayor, looks like we've got Councilmember Bergner attending by phone.
Are you there, Sean?
Shane.
Sean? Okay, Shane, thanks.
And I move to excuse Councilmember Severs and McGuire for tonight's meeting.
McGuire and Severs?
Yep.
Second.
Okay. Any opposed? All in favor?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't think. There's no excuse.
Okay.
All right, all in favor of amending the agenda to show the call to order and roll call? Show your right hand. Okay. Majority carries. Agenda?
Council Pro Tem, I would like to remove from tonight's agenda item resolution 10 related to the Human Rights Task Force. The committee met on Monday and the text of the resolution is being modified.
Okay. Anything interesting in that?
I've had a chance to meet with a group to discuss objectives, and it's a great group of people with a strong commitment to nonpartisan, non-political action. So look forward to being able to discuss it more when this resolution for our city to consider is returned.
Very good. Any other amendments to the agenda?
Yeah, I motion to switch items number 8 and 9, which would move our workshop discussion of priorities to after the action items.
Okay.
And also move our executive session item 12 to next week.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the agenda being revamped.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Citizen comments? Anybody like to address the council? Now's the time to come to the podium, give us your name and address, and any questions or discussion you'd like to have. Go on up, please.
I think there's 4 of us. Do you want all 4 at once, or we're all speaking on the same issue?
That's up to the group. If you want to speak individually, that's fine. If you want to appoint a spokesman, that's fine as well.
Yeah, we're all here on our own.
United Front, you'll have one. Thank you.
We'll all come up now.
Lucky you.
So is there a Dennis before? Do I say my name? Or?
Your name and address, please.
So my name is Katie Frederick. I live at 266 North Legacy Ridge Drive. And I come before you today to ask about the apartments being built on Apple Way. And I've seen the proposed plan, and they have 3 entrances on Apple Way and 1 on Legacy Ridge Drive. My question is that set in stone for the entrance on Legacy Ridge Drive? Or is that something we as citizens can try to persuade to change that?
Okay. Any other questions, or is that
That's
the
why
fire?
I'm here.
Okay. Amanda, can you address this for us, please?
That is set in stone. The decision was issued back in August. The appeal period concluded, I believe it was August 30th, and they are moving forward with construction. I will tell you that that portion of the project is the last portion of the project, so I don't know exactly when they'll be putting that approach in.
So there's no way as citizens to change that?
That's correct. The appeal process has already gone through and the public hearing is held.
So have you taken into account that Legacy Ridge is private roads and the bus stops are at that corner? There are several bus stops because of the overflow issue in our district. And with all the new housing developments, it's only getting worse. We thought we would solve the problem with the recent bond that passed by creating the second elementary school in Liberty Lake, but we are now full to capacity. And we are now moving out and going to be back to square one where we're busing kids again because of all the new housing. We did vote as a community that we would have the understanding that we would not, if we voted for the bond, we would not have to bus our children anymore. But because of all the new developments, that's happening again. So as we make an entrance there, was it recognized that the traffic there would be astronomical in the morning? It's already bad. And what will be the plans to create safety there for the children and the cars? Currently, it is bumper to bumper up one side and down the other with cars parked. There's no parking for the cars, they have to come down. And if you add an entrance to the apartment complex, and you have people coming out from work in the morning, I just see a huge problem. And liabilities, kids run across the street, as much as you try to tell them to look both ways, they don't. And that is my concern. I understand that it's gone through and there's nothing we can do, but I fear for the safety of our children, and I don't see the school district. I fought with them to come in, and they will not. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you very much, and we'll take comments under advisement.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd just like to comment that the city and council has approved $50,000 for a comprehensive traffic study for the city. And we should have the results of that study, which includes the whole community, have the results of that probably in November or December. And hopefully they will address all the issues that you brought up this evening.
And then how do we, I guess, get the information out there? I mean, you have to be there at certain times of the day or you're not going to know. If you went at noon, it looks fine. But if you're there at between 7 and 9 a.m., it's a crazy madhouse. Same in the afternoon. So that's where I'm concerned that they're not really necessarily.
That's why we're spending $50,000 on a professional traffic study, so that we don't just take city employees and put them out there with county traffic. It's a professional traffic study company, traffic engineers. And that's why we're spending the money for the study, to see where the problems are and what actions we can take as a council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Chad Walters, I live at 21650 East Mill River Lane, and just, I guess more than anything, I want to make a statement about the plan as we come to city council meetings and listen to people talk about the plans for the city, the direction that we're going, and I guess the community that we're building as we look to put more apartment complexes into our city. We have a sign that says that, you know, we're a bike-friendly city, and we have bike lanes that are big enough for golf carts to move around the city. And I think that when we put in apartment complexes at the rate that we're putting in apartment complexes, we're giving an opinion, not an opinion, but we're putting out a vibe that our city is going away from that community feel to more of a move-in, move-out type of a community. And I think we're getting away from the things that make Liberty Lake special, and the reason that people are willing to drive from the city out to Liberty Lake to live in, as we build more apartment complexes. And so I just am curious as to what the city's plan is when it comes to the number of apartment complexes that we're allowing within our city realm, or our city boundaries. Where do we stop on building apartment complexes versus promoting more permanent housing for residents?
Let me say this. At this point in time, we have a community development team that looks at this. We also have plans that have been set for many years regarding this issue. Is there a particular number that's been set? No. Each application is based upon its own merit. We have certain parameters that must be met for those applicants, and if they meet them by law, there's not much we can do about it. Nobody wants apartments in their backyard. Get that. I think we all get it. We just can't close the door to apartments because we don't like the people that live there. Or perhaps we think that they won't care as much about the city as the rest of the homeowners. So every year, Bob, we go through the growth management.
Comprehensive plan review, yes.
Specifically development code as well.
Development code as well.
So I think that one of
these are reviewed on a yearly basis as well.
So I think that it's less about the apartments being in our backyard that the concern is. The concern is what are we doing as a city to gear up for the growth when it comes to facilities. Katie mentioned that, you know, we voted on these bonds with the understanding that our kids weren't going to be bused to other school districts.
Right.
And when you put in apartment complexes, it's not that the apartment complexes are bad or the people that move into apartment complexes are bad. It's just you're concentrating a lot of people that require a lot more facilities than we are building at this point in time. And so we're bringing in growth before we have the facilities to handle it, which then directly affects us as citizens of the community, because we aren't looking at the growth and making the proper measures to, you know, how we're going to handle that growth. We promote the growth to come in, and then we figure that, you know, we'll deal with it when it gets here, which is like the traffic issues that we're going to have by allowing an entrance into a private road. And then the traffic just on Appleway there in general is already a difficult area to navigate. So,
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else? Good evening.
Hi, I'm Justin Frederick, and I live at 266 North Legacy Ridge Drive. So they both stated, obviously, some issues, concerns with some of the developments that exist around the Legacy Ridge development. And probably to clarify for Chad, although I can't speak on his behalf, it's not an issue of people who live in apartments. It's not an issue with, we're not prototyping those individuals, and I think any claim to such is erroneous. Rather, it's a primary issue with traffic, and another primary issue with safety. And as a physician who sees people with head traumas regularly, I can tell you that I hate to see pediatric head traumas, I hate to see pediatric spine traumas, but when you have more than several hundred kids who are passing through that area where they're dropped off by buses, that already we're having concerns with just the people who live within that addition use that highway, including all the construction vehicles that are going to the Copper Basin and other developments on that hill. You added to it an additional entrance from the apartment complex that already has 3 sufficient entrances on that whole way. It makes no sense to me. When you say it's set in stone, nothing's set in stone. Our U.S. government repeals things all the time. They just repealed the Defense of Marriage Act less than 2 years ago. So whatever happens can still be repealed. I understand that there was an appellation process or an appeals process that occurred already. I'm sure that many people within the community may not have known about that and may not have come to address the concerns or to speak them. But we're here tonight. And as citizens of the community, I appreciate the fact that we're being heard. I appreciate that the community is spending the money for a traffic analysis. But the truth is, no matter what the traffic analysis says, adding additional lanes of traffic within an area that already is congested and has multiple children dropped off by school buses from all around the district is going to potentially threaten children's lives and livelihood. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's necessary. And I don't see the justification in them adding an additional entrance into a private road when they have 3 sufficient entrances off that road. So, I guess my question is there not a repeal process, and what is their justification in adding a 4th entrance?
Okay. Let me, first of all, I guess I probably erred by not letting everybody know at the beginning of this that this is a citizen comment period, not a Q&A. So during this period of time, you're welcome to say whatever you want to say. It's not the platform to ask us particular questions about particular objects and get answers.
Okay.
However, please pick up the phone, call the city manager, email the city manager or the mayor, or any of us individually.
Okay.
We will answer your questions for you, okay? Now, whether or not you like the answer is a different matter. But I don't want you leaving tonight thinking that you were just ignored, cut short, not listened to, because nothing could be further from the truth, okay? You are part of us. We are part of you. This is not a situation where we're on opposite ends of anything. What I hear everyone saying so far tonight is the same thing that makes this board work, is we're worried about the city as a whole. So there's nothing adversarial about it. We do want to hear what you have to say. And if you have specific requests and questions that you need answered, we have the people who have the ability to answer that for you, or at least get you some response. So I apologize if it seems that we're ducking you. We're not. It's just not the forum for that particular reason. So we will take your comments. They're on the record, and they will be reviewed. If you need specific further answers, please simply email or call the appropriate individual of your choice.
And I'm happy to do that. Thank you for clarifying.
I'm sorry, I should have done that earlier. So.
No, that's fine. I appreciate it. So I would like to stand on the record as an individual in protest, an absolute protest of this entrance added to Legacy Ridge Drive. And I would promote all my fellow citizens to act in civil disobedience in the event that it continues forward.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address? Good evening.
I'm John Wiseman. I live at 265 North Legacy Ridge Drive. And I mirror the comments from Chad and the Fredericks as well. I live in that area. I have a child up there. There are several children in my neighborhood. And I feel sort of like I'm beating a dead horse here with the comments. I just wanted to let you know that it's not just one squeaky wheel, one angry family. There are several families out there that feel the same way. I think it's short-sighted on the construction company's part to think that that is a proper and safe area for an exit onto Legacy Ridge Drive. I understand that the world's a big place. There's people growing every day. The apartment complexes are necessary. I agree with Mr. Frederick that it is a stereotypical statement to say that I disagree or dislike or don't want the people to live in apartments. I've lived in an apartment. Most people I know have lived in an apartment at one time. I don't want to berate you or treat you like a petulant child, but I think that's a very unfair statement to make reference to people in apartments. But anyways, I just wanted to be on the record, and I stand with Mr. Frederick and Mr. Walters as well. It's a safety issue, and I hate to see somebody get a traumatic brain injury, some 7-year-old or some adult paying attention to their child, and then have the city say, oh, no, we kind of knew about it. And from a financial standpoint, now the city looks at throwing out some gigantic fiscal settlement as opposed to fixing the problem in front. I appreciate your comments with getting a hold of the city manager via email. I realize I don't expect any answers from you. Thank you for clarifying. Obviously, we will do that, and we'll let the other people in our neighborhood know as well. Hopefully, we can find a resolution. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
There should be business cards for the staff members on the front desk. That'll help you with their email addresses.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? No.
Hello, Yvonne Frederick, 1320 North Fairway Road. I know you said not to ask questions. I just wanted to make sure I understood the agenda for tonight, though, because I do have comments about the Human Rights Task Force, but if you postponed it till, is it till next month?
The 20th of this month.
Thank you. Okay, I'll hold back on that then. And then I understood that there's an amendment to the resolution. Is that right?
That the wording of the resolution has been modified, and we'll have it back for consideration on the 20th.
And is there a way I can get a copy of that?
The task force can be contacted from their website or the Facebook page.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Dunn, our resolution, which should also be available in the council packet the Friday prior to the meeting, correct? Will be in there.
Anyone else care to address the council? Come on.
I came here from coaching soccer, so I apologize about my appearance. I got this, got some information, and so I wanted to come here. But I am Megan Christensen. I'm 650 North Stimson Lane in Legacy Ridge, and I came to understand today that the plan is to make that complex entrance and exit for the apartment building right there on Legacy Ridge Drive, which I am concerned about, especially as a parent that has to do all the pickup. We line up on those roads as safely as we can, but I can only imagine adding that much traffic with that many units right through that area. It's already congested with bus pickup. And I'm a very logical person. I run a software company. That's what I do. I'm a nerd. So when I look at it from a very logical standpoint, I'm concerned. So I want to bring that as a citizen, as a concern that I truly have, and I disagree with that type of planning. I know there's never a perfect solution. I definitely understand that. But I would plead that we try and look at other options in this situation. So I wanted to express my concern and put that officially in writing so that I can share my opinion as a citizen, because I love where I live. I love this community, and I want it to be strong, and I want it to be safe, and I want it to be a great place. So I want to share that point of view. Thank you.
Councilman Langford, I just want to thank each and every, I'm sorry, another citizen's comment, please, don't interrupt.
This is my first meeting, so I'm Ellen Williams. I live on 500 North Stimson Lane, and I do not have small children. However, I am in and out of that gate, and I know friends that go 3 times a day down to that intersection to pick up children from school because of all the craziness. So it isn't just 1 time a day, it isn't just twice a day, it's 3 and sometimes 4 times a day that cars are parked along that side. I know you as city council members, your first charge is the safety of the community. And I would in no way put in harm's way to ramp up the exposure of our children to that. I think that there needs to be, I'm fairly new, I've been here about 2 years, and I don't know what criteria are used to make selections, give me building approval. I would just love to be a little bit more transparent so that I myself might know. I apologize for my appearance. I was downtown, Spokane, and got a text and said, this is happening, and I said, I'm going to be there because it's that important to me. So I just really admonish you to clearly look at the safety issues that are very, plus the fact that you're going to triple, you're not going to double, you're going to triple the amount of traffic that goes through there. Thank you.
Just a second. Anybody else want to address this? Not hearing. Anyone else will close the comments section. Councilman Dunn.
Hey, thanks, Odin. I just want to recognize and thank each of you who come tonight to provide citizen comment, that it's a really important part of a public process. I can't speak to the appeals process related to the currently implemented project, but I want to say that we're right now in the middle of a development code review. The recipe which has created the situation that we're dealing with today is right now being considered carefully for its merits. I encourage you to visit with our planning commission and meetings, public meetings, to also understand the processes and the decision making. That your ability to change, for example, the way our development code is being handled is at hand, like right now. So just recognize that it's an important action that the city takes, commits to each year to ensure that our codes which are permitting the projects that we see are appropriate and the right ones for our community. I also wanted to note that we are currently in effect with an ordinance as a moratorium of additional permitting of multifamily housing. That was an action that I personally initiated earlier in the year to give us a chance to talk about it. There's some really important conversations that got to happen. I want to say people need to understand what we have as a community and objectives. So, number one, thanks again for being part of our process here tonight, but there's more to come, and there's more important parts that allow you to contribute. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and City Council Committee reports. Community Development report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Community Development Committee met on Tuesday, August the 23rd, at 5 p.m. here at City Hall. Present were Councilman Langford, Councilman Moore, City Administrator Katie Allen, and Planning Commission Chairman Stan Yocum. Excuse me. One of the things we did at the meeting, we reviewed the City Council proposed agenda overviews for the next couple of months. We discussed the town square feedback, or whether or not the city would be interested in having a study done by Bill Robinson of Robinson Research to try to determine what the reasons were for the rejection of Proposition 1. I think it was kind of the conclusion of the committee at that meeting that the city not proceed in that direction. We also discussed the population and housing inventory research and discussed that. There's a county study on what the projected population growth is in the county and in the city of Liberty Lake. We also discussed an industrial zone within Liberty Lake, and that's the Douglas property, and whether L. Douglas would request a workshop for the development of that property. Something other than industrial use. We discussed the City Council and whether or not the City Council should participate on a quasi-judicial basis on zoning and land use matters, presently handled by the hearing examiner. And I think it was kind of our conclusion that we should probably stay with the hearing examiner rather than getting City Council members involved in making those decisions. We talked about the Spokane Transit Authority priorities and some alternatives that we might want them to consider in the future. And Katie Allen, the city administrator, presented a traffic study update. So I indicated earlier, I think that that should be completed in late November, early December. After that, our meeting was adjourned.
Thank you, sir. Finance Committee?
Can I ask a real quick question before we move on?
Yes.
This Douglas property, can someone advise me on where that is?
Where the old Safeco is, end of Appleway, very west end of Appleway. It's the vacant property just to the east of that, west of Altec, across from kitty corner from Taco Bell.
Okay.
Where the
So-
RV park was proposed.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was the property.
The RV
behind
park.
that. It's
Yes.
not the one, it's not the parcel behind that, it's the one that runs Appleway.
To be determined on the presentation.
Okay, thanks. All right, Finance Committee met tonight. Council members Moore, myself, and Langford were in attendance along with R.J. Stevenson, our Finance Director. Looking at the wrong page. We went over the monthly report forecast and the revenue and expenses so far. The monthly report continues to show that we're trending well on sales tax. Currently, we are up about $300,000 for sales tax as of the end of August. We're expecting to come in about $500,000 over for the year. So right now, we're trending about a 19% increase so far as of the end of August for the sales tax. A lot of that's coming from a lot of the construction that's going on, school, Comcast, Safeco. There is a 2-month lag in our receipt of sales tax revenue, so some of the other large projects you're seeing going on still have yet to hit our books. Utility tax, that we are on pace through so far through the end of August. Phone may come in a little bit higher than expected, but we're not looking to make any changes at this time. Just a reminder to our folks in the audience, the utility tax is earmarked toward our streets. Building permits, as at this point, we're at 140% of our budget at this point in time, so building continues to be strong, which obviously plays into our sales tax increases as well. Expenditures are expected to be under budget for the year. Projects, we reviewed some completed projects or projects that are about to be completed. So our roundabout project is will probably come in a little bit under budget. There are some expenses that you'll see come in 2017 as there are certain items that the contractor doesn't put in for payment until a certain period afterwards, but it does look like we will still come in under budget on that project. Orchard Park design, portion of that project is on budget as well. We talked a little bit about community signage as we were looking through the projects. We had set aside $100,000 this year to be put into a special fund for our community messaging. I did ask for an update on that, and we have $100,000 set aside. Unless I've missed a lot of meetings, and I don't think I have this year, I don't believe there's really been any additional discussion in any of the council meetings about what the next steps are in that project. So we talked about that, and Artie's going to get some updates for us on where we are in that project. We went over the forecast for the next 5 or 6 years. If you guys want a copy of that, we can get that out to you. The audit, as a reminder, we have a 2-year audit cycle here. So the 2014-15 audit just started. The opening meeting, which is off-site, the opening meeting is scheduled here at City Hall on Thursday at 1:30. So if anybody's interested in coming, please let RJ know if you'd like to attend. And the exit interview will be sometime in October, November. Other than that, we reviewed vouchers, nothing out of the ordinary, from both August 16th and 9/6.
Thank you very much. Public safety.
Thanks. The public safety meeting took place today. Councilmember Langford, myself, and Chief Bryan. That Head LeGrand Pamela was not able to attend, nor was representatives from Cook County Valley Fire. Briefly, Brian Chief Asmus brought forward the 2017 budget, which was due in internal operations around the 23rd of the month. That Brian has witnessed to some, I'd say, almost cost reductions, or is doing a great job in managing costs related to his department. In the budget is one additional officer, increasing the number of officers from its current 11. That also of note is we're in collective bargaining right now with the officers union, and that a tentative agreement is at hand that the officers are actually to be voting on tonight. So Brian's outlined that the agreement is in intent and purpose and reasonable, and I'd say is amenable for both. So we look forward to some announcements regarding and hopefully the conclusion of collective bargaining shortly. The county's going live on the 3rd of October with a CAD RMS system. This is a new way for the officers, police, public safety, fire, to be able to locate 911 calls and respond. This is software equipped in each car, each vehicle that's operated by our police, for example. This system has been 2 years in the works and is a considerable effort on, I'd say, county-wide. Our officers have been evaluating it for the past 2 weeks. I'm going to say change doesn't come without some groaning, but I think Chief Bryan has carefully considered the efforts at hand and has been a participant. Look forward to understanding more about its full deployment when we get past the 3rd of October. Highlight would be compliance. NIVERS is a acronym used to refer to compliance with state and federal obligations for police reporting. where previously in our reporting systems we'd need to have an officer literally file a report mechanically as a document, have it be considered by the records clerk, entered in one system and then another system at that. This new CAD RMS system would allow the officer to contribute the report literally on site in the vehicle that doesn't require redundant, I'd say, entering by others down the line. So efficiencies are at hand with respect to its implementation. As an update to ongoing investigation, that there was our first and only, I hope, bank robbery that the, I guess I'd say the accused had been in on probable cause under arrest, and that is expected to consider a plea deal shortly. So let it not be said that our police officers follow through with respect to crime. Another observation for public safety is Alert Spokane is a countywide messaging and alerting system which the county operates, which allows individuals to register and receive notifications of public safety to your mobile phone. Think of it like Amber Alerts on the county level. This was given a test in the recent Spokane complex fires, which we endured during the month of August, and it didn't do well. The county is shopping right now to get together another alert and introduction system, because I think it's a great thing and an important thing that the county be able to reach the public, I'd say at large, those who choose to, in the ways that they can, in a meaningful way, respond to mobile phones. That's it for public safety. I also wanted to add as an observation that the Conservation Futures Nomination Board has carefully considered the actions at hand. We have, as a city, a nomination into Conservation Futures. I'm going to refer to it as the Liberty Lake Uplands Trailhead. That the Land Evaluation Committee then made their final recommendations, which now move on to the Park Board and to the County Commissioners, and that our nomination it moves forward at the very top as an administrative action. That our grant request at $150,000 will be funded the minute but the second that we're able to secure the easements that enable the connection to the Saltese Uplands. So, oh gosh, it's great. The ball is squarely in our court, so to speak, to work diligently and delicately and in a thoroughly collaborative way with all of the adjacent property owners to engage and to understand the utility of a trail and how it adds to the quality of life in our city.
Yes, you did a good job too, Dan.
Thanks. I only asked one question, Council Commissioners. So the messaging board, I'll observe, I think it's in a budget line, not a fund. I just want to make sure that's clear.
It's so it does have it can go either way. So if we don't spend it this year, it's going to get parked in its own fund. Okay. So it's covered either way. Okay. So you'll have it.
But I guess I'll speak in strong, positive, and supporting terms to the utility of a community messaging sign. In spirit and intent, that's what the budget line was asserted for. Gosh, it's my perception that it's really just up for staff to go out and quote, I'd say, and present for consideration to the council, to which I would handily laud and engage. So yeah, my perception is, gosh, guys, get out there and get a quote, and we'd love to move forward with that.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit, more detail.
And I'm going to relay that to Katie, and we'll have an update for you next week on where we're at or what our next steps are. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Shane?
Oh, you mind if I have?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Shane. Oh, just one more note. I forgot that I had on my calendar, and when Councilmember Moore was talking about STA, there's an open house for Spokane Transit on Thursday from 4 to 6. Unfortunately, I struggle with the calendar I have it on. I can't come up with the location right now, but they specifically, I believe, are talking about service within Liberty Lake and the Valley. So if anybody's interested in where that is, I'm sure one of us can come up with that for you, unless somebody over there will send me my email. You guys know? So I can pull it up on my email if somebody's interested.
Thank you. Shane, are you still with us?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Any comments to the point? Very well. I want to thank the committee members for their reporting and their participation. I'll entertain motions connected with the consent agenda at this time.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move action item A, consent agenda items 1 and 2, including the approval of the August 2nd, 2016 and August 16th, 2016 City Council minutes, and approval of the September 3rd, 2016 vouchers in the amount of $549,547.38, which includes the August 16th, 2016 vouchers in the amount of $142,233.64.
That's September 3rd, yeah, September 13th.
So I stand corrected, September 3rd, 2016 vouchers.
That's noted. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none.
Okay, move on to the next. Move action item, agenda item 9B, general business, items 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, accept Rob's demolition proposal for the removal and disposal of the diesel tank at Trailhead Golf Course in the amount of $5,435, and authorize Mayor Peterson to sign the proposal. Item 2, authorize Mayor Peterson to sign the full harmless agreement regarding the Schneidmiller family's donation for Pavilion Park. And item 3, authorize purchase and installation of 2 RRFBs and street lighting in the amount of $37,466.83 and a 5% contingency of $2,000 to be managed by staff for completion of the work.
Move. Second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Further discussion?
Further discussion, go ahead.
On the item B1, accept Rob's demolition proposal. I'm concerned about, in reading that proposal, there's really no guarantee that the contamination is going to be gone from that soil. And I'd just like to encourage us to do everything possible to make sure that there is no contamination left in the soil. And that later on, we might face some problems with the EPA because of that contamination. Having been in the oil business in my other life, I know what some of the dangers are of leaking gasoline in oil tanks and what some of the costs can be for soil cleanup. So I'd just like for us to look at that proposal again. Just make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that there's no contaminated soil removed.
Thank you.
Do you want to
staff comment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, members of council. Is that on? No.
That's better.
Very good. All right. So what you have before you is an agreement between the city and a demolition company. In order to dispose of a tank of this nature, you have to do a lot of coordination with Department of Ecology, and that is where the safety factor comes in. So at each step, samples are taken, they're sent into a certified lab, and those results are brought back to both the city and Department of Ecology, and that's where they're both entities review them at that point. So I wanted to make sure that you know that appropriate testing and measures will be taken as we're going forward demolishing the tank and excavating material under the tank to make sure that we're getting the contaminated material as much as we can.
I'm just concerned about the future, and I'm not talking about the State Department of Ecology. I'm talking about the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, who might come in for some reason or another in the future. We decide to sell that property,
So
dispose of it or develop it or whatever it is.
I guess to give you some clarity, the state of Washington, groundwater is monitored and regulated by the Department of Ecology, not the EPA.
Comment, Shane? Councilman? Good enough for you? Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your comments. Okay. So, is there a second for section B, general business 1 through 3?
Councilmember Bell.
Second, all of them. Very good. Can we move it then, please? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. So moved. We're now ready for the workshop discussion. Is that correct? Okay. I would like to preface this with one comment, sir, and that's that we bundle that town center activity in for future discussion and remove that from what we're going to be discussing tonight, please.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, members of the council, probably wondering why I'm up here for this workshop. So, in Katie's absence, she asked me if I would just start off the discussion to help lead the conversation to determine, get some consensus around 2017 council priorities. So, you have in your packet what those priorities that were submitted. The exercise that we went through is that after receiving the council priorities and feedback, all the directors met with Katie before she left, and we took all the priorities that were submitted to us, put them into very broad categories that you have before you, which include Town Square, which we'll not be talking about tonight, business and support recruitment, transportation projects, parks, recreation, trails, and open space. Of course, we have miscellaneous as a category. And then we took it upon ourselves, as your department directors, that several of the things that we saw we thought were more task-oriented as opposed to necessarily priorities. And so you'll see those also in your packets as tasks that we can assign to staff members to deal with directly. So that was the process we went through. Tonight, again, this is for your discussion, but our goal is to hopefully take away get some consensus on the 2017 council priorities in each of the broad categories that we have ranked those in tonight. Or if you have other categories or other suggestions, we know this is your first look at it as a group, and so we're definitely willing to take input and look at that as well. So with that, Councilmember Linford, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Chief. With the understanding that the Town Square has been removed, is there any general discussion by the council concerning any of these priorities?
Excluding Town Square?
Excluding Town Square this evening.
Well, I personally think it's a pretty good comprehensive list. It's interesting to see how our priorities have changed over the last several years since we've been doing this as our city has grown. I did have one question under item 3, transportation projects. I'm assuming pedestrian safety, I'm not quite sure. And maybe this is more of a question for Andrew and Amanda. Lots of discussions on Saturdays at the market, as you know, I have. Do we have anywhere, and I can't remember, on our project list to put in one of our 10-foot paved trails along Mission in the River District for some better connectivity between River District and the pedestrian bridge?
We do, but that is going to have to come alongside development.
It's nothing we can do ourselves.
No, not ahead of time. We would be putting the facility at great risk of having to either do a severe remodel or completely remove and replace, which would really be a bad situation to find ourselves in.
We actually looked at that last year.
We did.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of comments about that particular
I know, it would be a very good connection, and at some point it will be a connection, but because of the amount and type of development we're going to have in that area, it would be very difficult to plan that ahead of time.
Thanks.
Councilmember Langford, I'd observed, Chris, I too believe it's really important to actually create somehow pedestrian connections, and it also lives out what ended up as a miscellaneous objective stated here, which is, I'd say, bridging the north and south of our city. I remember actually quite well the prior discussions of how could we somehow provide pedestrian improvements on Mission, and it basically comes down to we have to put up I call it a throwaway project. That because the easements and the right-of-way and the other things that are in effect, it is possible with what is proposed as the grade for Mission. But I think now we're coming up on the second year that we're seeing this, and in all that time, I think, gosh, I would have rather had people been able to walk and ride comfortably from their homes in the River District over to our pedestrian bridge and on to the rest of our city as well. So I guess I advocate in discussions that we consider for 2017 the concept of, I'll refer to it as a throwaway project, which would allow us that pedestrian improvement. So yeah, it's an expense. Yeah, it is, but that in the same breath, we can't put a timeline or a gauge on the actual development of Mission Road. To be honest, Mission Road could be in its current state for the next 10 years, really. So I'd rather think about having pedestrian improvements more in the shorter term than the longer term. So that's just my concept as priorities.
And where did you specifically think in general areas of?
Without being able to point to a map, Odin were referring to the stretch of Mission as it proceeds west from Harvard Road, and I'd say east from, pick a point there within the more populated regions of the currently developed land. So it's hard because that's a really beautiful stretch of road, and I actually go out there sometimes at, in the dusk hours because you sit there maybe and you can sort of imagine what Otis Orchards was like some 50 years ago. But at the same time, this is a place where we want people to feel comfortable riding their bikes and, going places. And so I value the notion of having some way for people not having to be on a physical right-of-way of cars to be able to walk. So,
thanks for that support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd just like to comment on the transportation projects. I submitted the last one there with a question mark after it, where it says Liberty Lake Shuttle.
Yes.
I question why it was a question mark after my submission.
That actually, we need more clarification on that one.
Yeah,
so
when we came into that, we weren't sure if, because we do have a Liberty Lake Shuttle, a van, it's an STA van that we got as a grant that is on loan for over the Hawkstone area. So we weren't sure if we were talking about that shuttle or providing a shuttle service within the city.
I was really talking about, I guess this came up during the discussion, really, if I could say Town Square project. We were talking at that time about Liberty Lake Shuttle service throughout the community to the Town Square. But I think Amanda at that time brought up the fact that years ago it was envisioned that there would be a Liberty Lake Shuttle, and there was even a route. And maybe you can just comment on that briefly, Amanda.
Yeah, going way back, we talked about a shuttle or a trolley system that would connect the major points in Liberty Lake to the downtown portion of Liberty Lake, and whether it runs seasonally or throughout the day, year-round. That was the original concept, and roughly the route was Liberty Lake Road to Country Vista. Country Vista then wraps around to Mission. It could continue over to Appaway, or it could cut to Moulter, and then come back down Appaway to Liberty Lake. And then now, this was all before the River District was annexed. Now we'd have to look at going into the River District as well.
So that's really what I had coming in mind. We're talking about connecting the north and south of Liberty Lake. This might be a good way really to do that, and to encourage people, instead of taking the risk of walking in traffic and across the bridge, to take a shuttle that would come from through these areas, residential areas, to the business district, and make stops at the various businesses within the community.
I do know that I had a conversation with the mayor about this topic, and I believe he's brought it up with STA as well. One of the reasons I'm going to try to go to that meeting on Thursday, because they are talking about service to, from, and within Liberty Lake.
Right. Okay, very good, thank you.
we'll get rid of the question mark now. We've got clarity.
Okay, thank you very much.
I would like to ask Amanda just to make a special note, please, as we address the transportation projects as listed on the agenda. I would like to see a combining of the pedestrian safety features and the crosswalks. And in light of everything that's taking place this evening, I would specifically appreciate a staff member reviewing the school bus stops and the safety surrounding those stops throughout the city, particularly in areas where they may have increase in residential activity. So if we could just kind of have an eye toward including those specifically within the transportation projects, I appreciate that, and I think the council would as well. Is that asking too much then?
I got it written down.
Thank you very much, Ann. Appreciate it. Any other comments? Sorry. Shane, any comments? All right, I'd like to close the workshop at this time, please.
I guess, if you don't mind, I'll try and throw a couple more out, just my observations.
Okay.
Everybody understands. Regarding parks, trails, and open space, Barefoot in the Park was an amazing event for our community, I guess, in the sense of a collaboration with other agencies, or I'm going to say groups in the community, and I do support how the city can continue to provide, I call it, that level of logistics. So I want to speak in support of recognizing Barefoot in the Park, or our primary summer event as a community. But the city doesn't necessarily have to say be the command and control position in a lot of this stuff, but providing logistics support and other actions, it's been immensely successful. Regarding, let's see, trail and trail master plan, I've indicated to this group that, yeah, we're potentially going to be enabling trail connections between Salty's Uplands and our city. I look forward to being able to talk about efforts and actions during the 2017 year. Yeah, I guess I'd say I stand in support in a spirit statement word of bridging the north and south parts of our city. That the city needs to, in my opinion, present parks and actions, and I'm going to say, yeah, real works that materially bring the sides of our city together across that river of cars. So I look forward to that coming year.
Also, it's worth noting, I believe, that sometimes we have a tendency to make everything in small, prepared squares, and if it doesn't fit in that square, it doesn't get hit on. We're talking about, under the title of Parks, Recreation, Trails, and Open Space, the trails are part of and should be included in the pedestrian safety, crosswalks to and from trails, etc. Okay? So let's don't put it in such a small box that we don't see it from the 5,000-foot view as well. Any other comments on the workshop? We'll move to close the workshop, and we have introduction of upcoming agenda items.
Okay. Yeah, so next council meeting, which is next week, is going to be full. We have 2 workshops, or a workshop discussion on mixed use in the industrial zone that deals with Lance Douglas and the RV park. We'll also have a workshop discussion on the moratorium and the quasi-judicial process. We have the resolution of the Human Rights Task Force. Move that to the next meeting. We also have another resolution that will have maybe more a draft format pertaining to the council priorities. There will be a executive session, 2, one on labor negotiations. The second one will be on current litigation, which was supposed to be tonight. We'll postpone that to next week. And then October 4th, we'll start entering into the budget and talking about that phase.
Okay. Any of the city members want to add to that upcoming agendas? Please see the appropriate staff members. Any other business to be considered? We'll also have citizen comments again. This allows you to discuss or to comment on anything that's transpired since our last comment. Anybody wish to make an address to the city council, we're opening it up at just about 8 o'clock. Not seeing any motion, we'll close it. Council have anything further? Adjourned.
Bye, Shane.
Good night, Shane.